Thank you for joining us yet again on our news desk on QTV. The headlines. The World Bank says there is need for Zambia to take prompt and right actions towards climate change at all levels. The Swedish government has donated 16.5 million kwacha worth of medical equipment to the Ministry of Health. And police have detained 3 people following a fracas that ensued at City Market and Lusaka, that's Lumumba bus stations involving bus drivers. Here now is the news in detail. World Bank Country Manager Sir Kupunde has noted the need for Zambia to take action and right actions towards climate change at all levels. Speaking during the Zambia Climate Resilience Mainstreaming Conference in Lusaka, Dr. Punde says it is only with such actions that Zambia can achieve results which donors can continue to support. He says effective climate action requires ownership at all levels. Details in this report.
The Resilience Ready Zambia Vision 2030 conference has officially opened in Lusaka. The important meeting on climate change has attracted many stakeholders, including members of parliament. The conference is important to Zambia because the country is vulnerable to impacts of climate change nationally and at community level. Minister of National Development Planning, Alexander Chiteme, was guest of honor.
Indeed, it is affecting our population and the economy, and the evidence is right before our very eyes. We're looking at it as we move in our various spheres of life. Ladies and gentlemen, the government has been taking measures to proactively deal with climate change effects. For this reason, the 7th National Development Plan has dedicated a whole strategic development area to reducing poverty and vulnerability.
The World Bank was also present.
Currently and in the future, we are going to be supporting the government in landscape investment. I'll say more about this later. The aim of this support is to protect forests, watersheds, and sources, while also reducing poverty to rural communities of Eastern, Wapula, Luchinga, and Northern provinces. Let me say a bit about the PPCR project. In June 2013, as some of you may know, the World Bank Executive Board approved the PPCR project for implementation. 6 years after the project started, I stand with you here to share in the achievements and results that this project has had on the intended beneficiaries of the country as a whole.
And the issues of climate change are quite serious. Wherever we are in this country, we are able to see the negative impact of climate change. And as a ministry, year in, year out, every rain season, we come out to plant trees. Last year, we did tree planting, but unfortunately, because of the pattern of the rainfall season, some parts of the country we didn't manage to plant trees.
Martha Katambi, QTV News in Lusaka.
Government says it remains committed to reducing the maternal mortality ratio to less than 100 per 100,000 beds and neonatal mortality ratio to 5 per 1,000 live beds, as we resulted and outlined in the Zambia National Health Strategic Plan 2017-2021. Health Minister Dr. Chitaluchi Lufia says government through his ministry has set clear legacy goals aimed at reducing maternal and neonatal mortality cases in all parts of the country. Speaking during the handover of donated medical equipment by the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency, SIDA, Dr. Chilufya says the country has made significant progress in dealing with reproductive, maternal, newborn, and child and adolescent health issues. He says this is evidenced by the results from the 2018 Zambia Demographic Health Survey, which revealed that the maternal mortality ratio has reduced from 398 per 100,000 beds in 2013 to 2014 to 278 per 100,000 live beds. The minister has applauded the Swedish government's commitment to help the government improve quality of health care services for women and babies through the provision of 11 anesthetic machines, 10 baby CPAPs, 9 infant incubators, and 10 newborn resuscitators, which will be distributed among 18 health facilities across the eastern and southern provinces.
By partnering with Sweden in not only equipment but human capital development in supply of reproductive health commodities, we are accelerating the agenda for maternal and child health improvement. So today, we place on record our profuse gratitude to the Swedish government for partnering with the Zambian government and the President to improve maternal and child health. We acknowledge the receipt of the resuscitators, receipt of the anesthetic machines, CPAP machines. All these will improve emergency obstetric and neonatal care. And placed at the appropriate facilities, at the appropriate levels, we will see the impact almost immediately. I want to assure you of judicial integrity as we utilize the resources that the Swedish government has given to Zambia, and also of a robust maintenance program to ensure that this equipment lasts.
And Swedish Ambassador to Zambia, Anna Maj Houtged, has noted the urgent need to invest in neonatal and maternal health in the country. Ms. Houtged says the Swedish country has spent 16.5 million kwacha on the medical equipment. She has reiterated the country's commitment to improving maternal, neonatal, child and adolescent health and nutrition in Zambia.
And further, we want to specifically underline the importance of maintenance of this medical equipment. It is essential for medical facilities to have the knowledge and the ability to work on and repair the equipment in order to achieve sustainability. We have, with the embassy since 2018, funded the Health Technician Management Improvement Project, and it places and further develops the capacity of newly qualified and recruited biomedical engineering technologists. And they are placed at health facilities to provide regular equipment maintenance and increase the uptime and working life of the equipment.
Police have detained 3 people from City Market and Lumumba bus stations for conduct likely to cause the breach of peace following a fracas involving bus drivers. This was after some drivers from City Market and Lumumba bus stations started charging buses belonging to Flash Company 15 kwacha per bus operating on the town to Apex University Chalala route. Police spokesperson Esther Katongo has told QTV News that this caused confusion between the two groups and police had to move in and manage to control the situation. Mrs. Katongo has named those detained as Kelvin Njovu, 33, Emmanuel Mungomba, 19, and Sebastian Chanda, aged 37. And United Party for National Development, UPND Local Government and Housing Committee Deputy Chairman Brian Ndumba says the protest by Flash commuter bus drivers over extortion by PF cadres should serve as an eye-opener to the Zambia Police Service. Mr. Ndumba says if the police has a shortage of manpower, the UPND is ready to help clean up Lusaka.
We call on the PF cadres to realize that they have been cheated enough by the corrupt PF leadership, and took over bus stations and markets. Taking over bus stations and markets is criminal and not sustainable. UPND in government will ensure markets and bus stations are governed under the Markets and Bus Act to ensure that the councils are solely responsible for collection of levies, fees and charges. The fight that has risen today between the Flash drivers and cadres is as a result of government and police allowing criminals to make a living out of their stations because the PF government has completely failed to create jobs. If police continue giving a blind eye to this matter, the UPND reserves the right to take whatever action the party deems necessary to help the residents of Lusaka who have been brutalized by these PF cadres for too long a time now.
But Patriotic Front PF District Chairman Lusaka, that's for Lusaka, David Silubanje has distanced his party's cadres from the harassment of Flash bus drivers in Chilenje, forcing them to park their buses at Chilenje police station. Mr. Sulubanje has told QTV News that the PF cadres were nowhere near the fracas, saying individuals collecting money from bus drivers are not PF members.
So it was drivers versus drivers. There are those drivers for Flash and those drivers who drive the small minibuses. So they were just trying to fight on their own. But we have taken note of that, and we'll try to see how we can help them, because these are the drivers who are supposed to work in harmony. It's unfortunate that when they fight, they always want to bring the name of Patriotic Front. So for the one of the Flash buses, mostly, if you want to issue statements, the best thing is you must be able to investigate. Because just going to the media and start destroying or denting the name of Patriotic Front, I think that is not going well with us as a Patriotic Front, especially me as a district chairman. I'm sure in the future, let us try to communicate instead of rushing going to the media and giving the media half-baked information. It's not very good, because otherwise we may think that you are doing deliberately to dent the name of the party in Lusaka.
Opposition National Democratic Congress President Chishimba Kambwili has asked Energy Minister Matthew Nkua to resign on moral grounds. Mr. Kambwili says it is obvious that the Energy Minister has failed to handle the energy sector, as evidenced by the continued load shedding the country is facing. He says the current load shedding the country is experiencing is becoming unbearable for the people of Zambia.
Nkua, you cannot continue as Minister of Energy when now we have moved electricity, like in Luansha where I was last week, goes at 15 hours and comes back the following morning at 6 o'clock. It comes back at 6 o'clock, goes at 11 hours and comes back at 24 hours. Bankuwa na mufilwa. Nshile fo kulanda power abapa mulu pali imwelelo. First I'm asking you to resign. Ngata muchitire resign nkesa ipusho uli pamulu. I'll put more volume. Because this is unacceptable. Every week, no, this week we have paid, we are going to have imported electricity. First and foremost, the economy is going down. There is no production in the economy. And even that 2% projection that you've made to grow the GDP, it will not be there under the circumstances. What is more priority to you than the issue of electricity at the moment? Abantu balechula mwakalingalingo omutabalelya baweoda aba mishishi aba mababa shop aba kushitisha inkoko shilebola imwe balungu kanshi mwatula kwisa shikulu mwatula kwi. You know, sometimes you say Kambwili is emotional, but I don't think any reasonable person would not be emotional under the circumstances. Can you please sort out this issue of power?
Meanwhile, Mr. Kambwili has condemned the police for cancelling a Democratic Party rally in Samfya district and tear-gassing party supporters. He has challenged the church to come out in the open and condemn what he has described as barbaric behavior exhibited by the police and the government. Mr. Kambwili says it is unbecoming for the Patriotic Front to block the opposition from holding rallies, despite giving the police prior notice.
You see the Sanganalan that paid per 12th August 2021 Mukaya. Nangu muchite filishani kuya bebe. Elo le Sanganaye vat mukapitilila. So shikulu nangu mukanya banenu kwatama meetings, you destroy the political democratic space. If your time to go is 2021, no matter how nangu muka kwate shani nangu sikazwa kapalamine shani aleta fili aleta taparifi kachitika nangu fiemi plampa ko kusamba imi palu mukasambe fina mulombo ataparifi kachitika. So even disturbing the opposition from having meetings, will not help. So please, let's learn to coexist and allow other Zambians and opposition political parties to have political space. Yes. And for you, the Zambia police, I think what has been wrong in this country is that when there is a change of government, those police officers who misbehave are let off the hook. Yes. But I think things must change. Individual police officers must be indicted for their action. This is unacceptable. So mupele ya papene mwali pepa mwebantu kasha mapepo yana pela makumbi.
The Zambia Association of Manufacturing ZAM says increasing electricity tariffs will not help address the current energy challenges the country is facing. ZAM Vice President Chipego Zulu says increasing tariffs will simply impact negatively on the manufacturing sector. Speaking during a joint media briefing in Lusaka, Ms. Zulu has also called on the Energy Regulation Board to share findings of the electricity cost of service study before considering any electricity tariff hikes.
Now, ultimately, we recognize the fact that we do need to have cost-reflective tariffs if we are going to produce our power in a manner that attracts investment into the sector. And once we have that investment, we should be able then to see the electricity tariffs actually begin to go down the more players there are. However, where our bone of contention has been is in the way that we move to cost-reflective tariffs. I think this point has been re-emphasized a number of times, that we cannot speak about cost-reflective tariffs without the evidence for the move to cost-reflective tariffs being there. It is really an area where we see the need for information to be shared. We see the need for transparency, so that all of us are carried along. Manufacturers need to know what do cost-reflective tariffs actually look like. We need to know how much does it cost us to generate this. Having a figure and not telling us how we arrive at it is definitely an area of concern, because we would then be asking ourselves, what are we paying for?
Speaking at the same briefing, Consumer Unity Trust Society Center Coordinator Chennai Makumba has insisted that these consumers are already burdened with the previous 75% hike in electricity tariffs. Therefore, increasing the tariffs again would adversely affect them. On Tuesday, the Energy Regulation Board will hold public hearings on ZESCO's application to revise electricity tariffs to be held simultaneously at 10 hours in Kitwe, Livingstone and Lusaka, respectively.
Our encouragement is essentially for this study to be expedited. Ultimately, any further conversation needs to be done on this basis. We will be providing submissions tomorrow where the ERB has essentially called for different stakeholders. We have done an analysis which we can share, but our concern here is that first and foremost, at 100% increment for electricity, we are going to see a negative impact, not only in costs for the part of manufacturers, but even on households. Based on some of our preliminary findings, we've got almost 150,000 people who will essentially be plunged further into poverty. Secondly, our recommendation had also been to see how we can potentially stagger. If essentially we want to see an increase in electricity tariffs, a once-off 100% tariff really is difficult for any consumer to be able to see how they can begin to compensate or adjust their consumption in order to make room for this increased expenditure.
The opposition has been advised to stop wasting their time by entertaining the thought of the country holding early elections. PF Central Committee member and Party Legal Affairs Chairperson Brian Mundubile says the opposition should realize that there will be no such elections. Mr. Mundubile, who is also government parliamentary chief whip, states that even in the unlikely event of an early election, the PF can still win despite the current challenges the country is facing. In an interview with QTV News, Mr. Mundubile says the victories the ruling party is recording in by-elections is clear evidence of its strength. He states that load shedding and the high cost of living in the country does not mean that the PF government has failed. Mr. Mundubile says the truth of the matter is that the PF government has in fact fulfilled over 80% of the 2016 campaign promises it made to the Zambian people.
You see, elections are not won out of being talkative. You win an election, first of all, by coming up with a party manifesto. That is the promise that you make. So if you get the PF party manifesto today and you begin to go through it line by line, To a great extent, we're over 80% in the implementation of what we promised the Zambian people. So the Zambian people, yes, acknowledge their difficulties. They're facing difficulties. The economy is not as easy, and there are reasons for that. We are saying most of the reasons that are attributed to this are factors that we cannot control as a party, are factors that we cannot control as a government, factors that we cannot control, as a country. Effects of climate change in the world over, the world is affected, the world economy is affected. So if we were to go for an election today, I want to maybe just give an example. We haven't stopped going for elections. Do a summary of by-election that we've gone through from the time that we won this election. What answer will you get?
The UPND says it is resolved to block the enactment of the Constitutional Amendment Bill number 10 of 2019, despite the recent ruling by the Constitutional Court. In its majority ruling, the Constitutional Court declined the request by the Law Association of Zambia, LAZ, to restrain the National Assembly from continuing with the legislative process to enact the Constitutional Amendment Bill into law while its petition is still being heard. UPND founding member Ambrose Lufuma says, having heard the cry of the Zambian people against the enactment of the bill, his party is obliged to comply with their wish. Mr. Lufuma, who is also a Kabompo Member of Parliament, has told QTV News that being the biggest opposition political party, the UPND will thus vote against the bill when it is put to a vote in Parliament. He says the concern of the UPND is particularly that if the Constitutional Amendment Bill is allowed to go through third reading, the PF is likely to add its own provisions to the legislation. The Law Association of Zambia, LAZ, says its petition in the Constitutional Court questioning the constitutionality of the Constitutional Amendment Bill number 10 of 2019 is still active. LAZ President Eddie Muitwa says the petition is coming up for trial on the 12th of November 2019 in the Constitutional Court. Mr. Muitwa, however, states that LAZ is consulting its lawyers on the court's decision last Thursday to throw out its application for an injunction to block the legislative process of the bill in Parliament. He has told Q News that the consultation is about whether the association should continue with the petition or not in view of the court's ruling last Thursday. Mr. Muitwa states that this is especially that the Constitutional Amendment Bill has not yet passed second reading in Parliament. Political historian Bizek Piri has questioned the genuineness of the supposed reconciliation that recently took place between President Edgar Lungu and NDC leader Chishimba Kambwili. Professor Piri does not think reconciliation ever took place between the two leaders, notwithstanding their public display of handshakes on two occasions within a space of 5 days. In an interview with Q News, Professor Piri says reconciliation requires two separated individuals first meeting and understanding where they differ. He states that the two reconciled individuals must also agree on how to move forward and recognize that they are united by virtue of belonging to one grouping or nation. Professor Piri has since questioned where President Lungu and Mr. Kambwili met to discuss their differences and where their followers equally resolved their misunderstandings.
Reconciliation is sitting down, talking to each other, understanding where do we differ and how can we move forward as a united people. United in the sense that you are Zambian and you want the best for Zambia. Now, when you talk about the reconciliation take place, where did it take place? Where did the leaders meet? Where did their people meet to say, okay, this is how we want Zambia to be run? And you agree, then you can talk about reconciliation. As far as I'm concerned, no reconciliation has taken place. Reconciliation can only take place when people meet and talk and discuss with each other and agree and resolve issues. Then you can talk about reconciliation. But you as human beings, you meet somebody, you greet each other and you move on. You have not reconciled. The issues that you have created separation are still there.
Government says it has so far spent about 270 million euros on the digital migration project. Information and Broadcasting Services Permanent Secretary Chanda Kasolo, however, says not all the money allocated to the project has been spent. Mr. Kasolo has told QTV News that with the remaining 20 million euros, it is expected that the implementation of the entire digital migration project will be complete on the 31st of March 2020. He says all rural studios under the project are almost 90% complete and that the main nerve center of the project in Lusaka is also almost complete. MMD Serenje Central Member of Parliament MACHAMANDA says that he is taking a multi-sectoral approach to curb teenage pregnancies and early marriages in Serenje. The lawmaker, who has bemoaned the high levels of teenage pregnancies and early marriages in his constituency, says he is engaging the chiefs, the police victim support unit and various youth groupings to curb the vice. Mr. Kabanda says he is also working at ensuring that underage girls and boys who are in marriages and some of whom dropped out of school due to marriages or pregnancies return to school. The Pensions and Insurance Authority PIA says it will early next year start paying out policyholders for the two insurance firms which were liquidated in 2017 due to insolvency. PIA Registrar Christopher Mapani has named the two firms as a Plus Life Assurance Limited and Focus Assurance Limited. Mr. Mapani explains that the authority is currently disposing of assets for the two firms, a process which is expected to be completed by the end of this year.
As you may be aware, in 2017, we placed two companies in liquidation, namely A Plus Life Assurance Limited as well as Focus Assurance Limited. Now, the status as at now is that we have gathered the assets which we are now disposing of. We are hoping that, and it still remains our hope, that by the end of this year we should start paying out. But this is dependent on us disposing of the assets. Right now we're in the process of disposing of the assets. So once we dispose of the assets, the next step will be to pay out the insurance, the policy holders. The process is moving on well, but not as fast as we would love. But we are optimistic that by the end of the year, a substantial chunk of these assets will have been sorted out. And come next year, early next year, we should be able to start paying out the policy holders.
And speaking when he launched the Toronto Centre Core Curriculum Certificate course, Mr. Mapani urged financial sector regulators to have a broad-based understanding on the objectives, principles and best practices for regulation and supervision. And Toronto Centre Program Director Shelina Visram emphasized that the financial system must be reliable and stable for countries to develop. Ms. Visram says the centre has trained more than 10,000 staff since its establishment in 1998 in more than 70 countries.
It is our hope that the partnership will be mutually beneficial and serve as an example to your partners of the great work done by institutions across the world. In this vein, I wish to assure you that we are committed to facilitate the successful delivery of the core curriculum certificate course.
Our mission supports, as I mentioned, many of the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. For example, Zambia has a national financial inclusion strategy. And just to give you some examples as to how Toronto Centre supports these goals, let's focus on these two. The SDG 5, which is a gender, it's focused on achieving gender equality and empowering women and girls. And we'll talk a little bit about the Climate Action SDG, which is number 13. So, as you know, Zambia does have a national financial inclusion strategy. And earlier this year, we delivered a program on financial inclusion and literacy supervision.
Well, that item brings us to the end of the news, but before we go, here's a recap of stories in the headlines. The World Bank says there is need for Zambia to take prompt and right actions towards climate change at all levels. The Swedish government has donated 16.5 million kwacha worth of medical equipment to the Ministry of Health. And police have detained 3 people following a fracas that ensued at City Market and Lumumba bus stations involving bus drivers. That will do it for the news. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye. God bless.